In my opinion, there is maybe just one thing that is most important for you to consider when you're looking at different GPS dog collars. We're going to talk about what that one thing is, and then we are also going to give you a discount code on what my top choice is. It's in the description below, so you can go ahead and do that whenever you want. And if you do, that both supports you and the channel at no extra cost to you. When I go to review some of these top GPS dog collars, the thing that I am looking at most is the accuracy and the consistency of containment. As you're hearing me say this, you're probably already surmising that I am doing all of this run-up because my top choice also comes with a top-tier price tag. And yes, that is unfortunately true. But like I said, we have a discount code, and I'm going to talk about some things relating to pricing that might change your opinion on the matter. Before we get into all of that, let's talk about accuracy. The most accurate GPS dog collar that I have ever tested is the SpotOn, and I decided to make a new one of these comparison videos because they just released the SpotOn Nova, and I wanted to take this thing out and see if it's actually as good as its predecessor. So Poppy and I went out and we went to a few different places with some differing terrains. We went to places with dense tree coverage. We went to kind of hilly places with some terrain that typically throws these kinds of collars for a loop. And it did. Every time. I'm not being hyperbolic. Every single time as she approached the boundary, she received the first tone correction. Then as she got closer, she received the second warning. And then as she finally crossed the boundary, she got the buzz telling her it was time to turn tail and come back. Now, when I say buzz, I mean vibration. There is a static correction option that is available for you. I typically leave that turned off. She responds well enough to the vibrate. I don't have to use it, but it's there if you need it. I am specifying all of these warning tones and other corrections because it matters in my testing in that there are other collars that don't match up. Our second best collar had a 14% intermediate failure rate with a 0% critical failure rate. What that means in practice is 14% of the time, as Poppy approached the boundary, she didn't receive the pre-boundary warning tones. Either the first tone or the second tone failed to fire. The correction as she got to the boundary, that hit every single time. But the reason why I feel those intermediate tones matter is because, especially if your dog is heading to the boundary at a high rate of speed, receiving warnings before hitting the boundary can make the difference between your dog, turning around and your dog just blowing past the boundary, which obviously would be a pretty bad thing. And then there are other collars, which I will also just not name, but you can basically walk through boundaries that you create without getting anything, a warning, a correction, nothing. So if you're looking to spend only $200 on one of these, what you're essentially going to be getting is the risk of it not working. So that's why in the description below, we have a discount code for the SpotOn Nova. As of right now, it is the only GPS dog collar that I will wholeheartedly recommend to you from here in my perch of early 2026. On to the SpotOn. If you are considering it for yourself, let's talk about some of the features that you're going to be getting. So right out of the box, you're going to notice how strong and durable this collar feels. It's made of a heavy-duty silicone, and it has a very secure clasp that's also easy to just click in and undo. SpotOn did not just decide to get into the GPS collar fence system recently. They essentially invented the category about 10 years ago, and they've been hand making these in New Hampshire ever since. Despite everything packed into here, the collar is surprisingly sleek. This housing encases a dual-feed, dual-antenna GPS system that is about 5 times larger than what most of its competitors use. The size difference also accounts for why it is more stable and reliable in conditions where GPS systems tend to fail, like, dense tree coverage or rough terrain. Fit-wise, out of the box, it fits dogs with neck sizes anywhere from 12 to 18 inches. They do offer extensions that you can get if you have a particularly large doggo in your life. One of the other things that I like is that it includes 2 different sizes of static correction tips. That, of course, has to do with the length of your dog's coat, but including both of them means that whether you have a short hair or a long hair dog, you're typically set to go without having to buy, aftermarket ones. And yes, it is fully waterproof. Poppy did give that a good test when she ran into a creek, and also plenty of times when she rolled around in mud and snow. Setting up the dog fence is easier than you might expect. You download the app, create an account, and from there, you can choose how you want to build your boundary. If you want, you can simply draw the fence on a map on your phone, and it programs it to the collar. This is great if you're going somewhere and you want to plan ahead by making the boundary in advance, or if you just want to do it from your couch and you're not worried about it. Or the other option, you could do what I did and walk the perimeter of your boundary with your phone in hand. You basically start building the fence, you walk around, it tracks where you're going, drops all bunch of pins along the way, you close the loop, you stop building the fence, and then it creates a smooth fence perimeter for you. Now, the flexibility here is kind of wild. You can build a perimeter as small as 1/3 of an acre or as many as 100,000 acres. And there is no limit on how many fences you want to create within your system, which is great. So you can have your house, friend's house, or grandparents' campsite or cabin or a dog park. On top of that, you can add keep out zones within a boundary. If you have a garden or a pool or a driveway that you don't want your dog just running into, you can create little keep out zones within your main perimeter. It's a super, super nice feature to have, especially if there are certain areas that you don't want your dog digging around in. The only negative, really, when it comes to setup is that SpotOn has limited availability for their customer support reps over the weekend. So when you're setting this up, just make sure that that lines up with their customer support hours so that you know if you run into any issues, someone's going to be there over the phone to help you out. Now, Poppy learned the SpotOn collar in like 2-3 days, and now she barely ever reaches the point where she hits the boundary and gets a vibration because she just understands by the tones, hey, I got to turn around. SpotOn also includes a free step-by-step training process, which is designed by trainers to help walk you through the process of getting your dog used to the system using positive reinforcement to help create real understanding. Battery life on the Nova is solid with 30 to 36 hours of coverage with live tracking enabled, and over 40 hours if you're just using the containment feature. I typically charge the collar after Poppy comes inside. It takes maybe 1 to 2 hours to go from basically nothing to a full battery. I have not run into any issues with this battery thus far. Typically, I could probably get away with charging it once or maybe twice a week if I wanted to. So here is where the Nova really separates itself from previous SpotOn models. They've added some genuinely useful features that make day-to-day use even better. The first is custom voice commands. You can record yourself in your phone giving commands to your dog like sit, stay, or even your dog's name, and then you can trigger those commands from the app to play on your dog's collar so that they hear you. What this means in the real world is you can record, saying like, Poppy, come, and program it into the dog collar so that when she's way out on the other side of the yard, I don't have to stand on my back porch screaming. I can just hit the button on my phone. She hears my voice and knows, oh, it's time to maybe come back inside. It's very useful if you happen to have a larger property. There is also voice assist, which is a feature that allows the speaker on the collar to give you audible notifications from the collar so that you can know the status of things without having to take out your phone. Things like, GPS enabled, boundary approaching, or battery low. And then they've also added activity monitoring, which tracks your dog's level of activity throughout the day. Now, it's not a full fitness tracker, but it does help to give you sort of a broad spectrum view of, okay, here is how much my dog is moving throughout the day. I don't keep too close an eye on those numbers, but it's nice to see the big trends, and if anything happens to change, especially a big trend downwards, that might point to signs that, oh, maybe something's wrong. Maybe I need to, take her to the vet. Oh, one more thing. The Nova has 4 times better cell reception in remote areas compared to previous models. If you're using the optional tracking subscription, this means more reliable location updates than ever, especially when you're off the beaten path. All right, let's talk about money. Because pricing changes so often, I'm going to direct you to the link below to give you an exact cost of what the SpotOn costs for you right now. But broad strokes, it's not cheap. I'm not going to pretend like it is. However, the thing that really matters to me in this case is that there is no required subscription to keep the collar working. You can buy the collar by itself, build as many fences as you want, as large or as small as you want, and use them forever. There are other cheaper GPS dog collars that are on the market that claim to do what SpotOn does, but not only do they frankly not do it as well, they also lock you into subscriptions month over month just to keep the basic functions of the collar active. SpotOn does offer an additional subscription that gives you the real-time tracking and the activity monitoring and alerts, but you can use the collar without that if you want. To me, that makes a huge difference because you can either spend more up front and not have to spend any more after that, or you can quietly spend more money over time by paying a monthly subscription fee that they can frankly adjust the price of at any time they want. And we all know they likely won't be adjusting those prices down. Bottom line, SpotOn will cost you more upfront, a little bit less if you use the discount link in the description, but you're paying for reliability, build quality, and a product that does what it says it's going to do. You can use the fence without being held hostage by a subscription, and it actually works. For Poppy and me, it's been a game changer. So if you're ready to take that step for your dog, head to the link in the description below. You'll get an exclusive discount. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with all these GPS dog collars that are out there, consider subscribing to our channel. We'll be posting updates and videos regularly. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.